Hi, and welcome to Dennig Ask the Experts. I'm Kat Jenkins, Marketing Director, and today SOC reporting pros Robert Ramsay and Bryan Gayhart talk about the audits for SOC reporting and whether those can be done remotely. Robert and Bryan, thanks for being with us.
Good morning, Kat. Thanks for doing this with us. Thanks, Bryan. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, of course. Happy to do it.
We're going to talk about whether SOC reports require in-person visits today. And I think it's kind of interesting because some standards do and some don't, and some historically companies have expected an annual visit, and that's part of the annual nature of these tests. A lot of audits are like that. But of course, during COVID, it's meant a lot of questioning of travel and on-site visits. So I thought it'd be something to discuss today.
Yeah, I think it's a great topic, and especially as I just come back from the beach and think of how nice the beach is and could I work there permanently, it dawned on me in terms of, what would I do with my clients? Would I still have to visit them all the time? And I think this, I don't know if there's an easy answer to this question.
It is tough. We are guided by reasonableness, so there's variation in practice. One easy answer might be that there's no blanket requirement. So unlike PCI DSS, which for a long time did have that requirement, it's not absolutely required. Although because reasonableness is so important, and because so many of testing requirements may be better in person, things like data centers or anything where physical security is a huge portion of what is being served. So armored vehicles, even casinos or laboratories with hazmat issues. Some of those I could see where you would need to be really careful if you're going to try to get all your evidence without a physical on-site visit. There would be a lot you would need to do.
Robert, share with me a little bit about how you handled these visits kind of before COVID, how COVID impacted this, and kind of where you see this going after COVID.
Yeah. So historically, so much was predicated on a visit. It made sense for relationship building, understanding operations, and then it made it easy to test some things that you could observe in person. During COVID, of course, with less travel, we've done more Zoom videos and recording and that kind of thing. We've done a little bit more using auditors on location. An extreme example is kind of Nairobi, Kenya. We have some operations there that we test, and we use an auditor there, so nobody has to travel to go do that. And then we use some reasonableness in terms of planning and saying, all right, what's the likelihood that their estimation of risk is still valid, that our estimation of risk is still valid, that things haven't changed in the prior year, that the physical controls are operating as expected. We put a little extra effort into that consideration as well.
Does your approach change if a company's environment is all in the cloud versus if they're hosting their own servers on site?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. Actually, that's a good point. That's the other extreme from those examples I gave where physical security is so important. So many of these SOC 2 reports are cloud-based software as a service companies where all the data is in the cloud, or even if it's a processor of medical billing and folks are in person, but all their data is in the cloud, then it's much easier to get comfort with all the controls needed. And they might be carved out to Google and Amazon and Microsoft such that we don't have to test them actually.
Got it. And how does materiality impact all this when you consider this in your testing?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think materiality is a slightly technical term that would explain the reasonableness I was describing with all the physical controls at a casino or an armored vehicle company or a lab or a data center. The physical security would be much more material to their customers than it would be to a cloud-based provider. At least our SOC report, if they're going to rely on Amazon's physical security over those servers.
And what are you hearing from clients in terms of on-site visit? Is this something they're still expecting to happen? Have they become comfortable with the virtual approach? Is it critical to kind of iron this out in the planning process?
It is. And nicely, it does improve communication. It's just something that we get to discuss at greater depth. But just like every risk-based decision of these days, going to lunch is a risk-based decision. there's a conversation of, well, is it worth the travel? Is it worth the visit on both sides? Is it worth the cost? And I think everybody appreciates relationship building when it makes sense and appreciates caution when it makes sense. So it seems like it's a day-to-day thing, but yes, it gets more attention and it definitely involves those conversations.
Are you seeing anything out there from peer reviewers on this topic or specific guidance from in terms of SOC?
SOC and the AICPA standards have not changed for COVID, unlike the PCI DSS did. There is some guidance emphasizing the things I've discussed in terms of reasonableness and corroborative inquiry and risk assessment and documenting that and being careful of what you're doing. But no standards have changed. And I think it's so far pretty consistent within the industry.
Got it. Very good.
That covers all our questions today.
I think it does. That was very informative and I certainly appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks for your time.
Wonderful, great insights, and thank you both so much for being with us today. If you are interested in learning more about SOC reports or need a SOC audit done, then please get in touch with us at barnesdennig.com. We'll see you next time on Ask the Experts.